There's a big problem with live streaming right now, and I think I've come up with a potential solution, but it's going to take the right company to make it. Blackmagic, I'm looking at you. So here's the big problem. You're not subscribed to my channel, and if you're not, be sure to hit the subscribe and like button below this video, but the second biggest problem is live streaming has evolved post-pandemic. And while originally we were either streaming an event that was live and in person, then eventually we were all virtual, and now we're stuck in this in-between hybrid world. But I've got an interesting proposition for Blackmagic or really any other live stream hardware company, and in a few minutes I'll share my crazy design and idea for this thing, and then I'll want to know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. So what does this look like currently in our setups? Well, basically, live streams used to mean showing up with a bunch of cameras to send one feed, your program feed, to a streaming destination for viewers to watch. But now, live streams involve some two-way communication, and it's not simply because everyone is stuck at home anymore. Streaming opened up a world of options where you can now bring virtual talent into a live show and display them on screens for the in-person audience to see, but also send that same feed out to the live stream for the people at home to watch. Splash in a little back and forth conversation and you've got a fireside chat or a panel discussion. Now, this isn't out of the ordinary from a hardware standpoint, and let me share how we've mostly been accommodating this for our streams. Typically, we'll bring in Zoom drone laptops, as some people like to call them, that sit in on a Zoom call where we bring in the virtual guest speaker. The Zoom laptop will be used to pin that speaker full screen, and that's how we can bring in a full video feed into our live streaming switcher. From there, you need a few inputs and outputs. First, you need to send a program or return live stream feed into this Zoom call so your virtual guests can see and hear everything else that's going on. This way, they can see the other members of a panel discussion sitting on stage, or they can hear when someone at the podium introduces them. It also allows them to see when they've been taken full screen so they know that it's their turn to talk. This creates a flawless and seamless event, but the Zoom guest also needs to receive an audio feed that includes everything from the video playbacks to guest speakers that are in person or people asking questions into a Q&A microphone. So to recap, the Zoom guest needs a visual return feed and an audio return feed minus their own voice. We call this mix minus. Now, to get their feed into your switcher, you need to output HDMI or an SDI feed from your laptop that's acting as the Zoom drone. If you have HDMI ports, then you're good to go. Otherwise, a USB-C to HDMI adapter should do the trick. Most of the time, out of precaution and habit, I'll run it through a decimator as a scaler and converter in the event that the laptop isn't providing me with the exact resolution and frame rate that I need. I understand that the ATEM switchers have scalers built in, but I prefer to take this job off their plate. Then we'll take their audio feed from the headphone jack of the laptop and provide that to our audio mixer. This way, we can feed their audio into the room for the live audience to hear them and to our ATEM switcher for the live stream broadcast. So there's a video and audio input, and there's a video and audio output for the Zoom virtual guest. Make sense? Here's the problem, or at least why I really get tripped up with this setup. See, you need one laptop for every single person that you bring in full screen so that you can pin one person per laptop. Otherwise, the alternative is to buy a beefed up computer and use a DeckLink card so you can output feeds that way. Regardless, this still requires bringing a bunch of hardware. While the DeckLink saves multiple computers, you still usually will pack a laptop and a breakout box that houses the DeckLink. Then you still need a mashup of cabling, converters, and capture devices for the return feed. So, see how it quickly gets kind of messy? Here's my big idea. Blackmagic has been known to create very simple to use products that solve a problem. They started with the ATEM Minis, and then they came out with the unique solutions like the HyperDeck Shuttle and the Streaming Bridge. I think that there's a hole in the industry that they could easily fill in a more affordable manner, and that is a virtual guest unit. I'm dubbing it the Blackmagic Design ATEM Virtual Caller ISO and ATEM Virtual Caller Extreme ISO. Blackmagic, you can thank me later. If you look at software solutions, vMix has their vMix call, Ecamm has a live interview feature to bring in guests, NewTek has their Live Call Connect. It's very clear to me that a natural progression in live streaming hardware is going to have to include a solution for bringing in virtual guests. It seems that up until this time, though, Blackmagic hasn't really created a solution for that, and that's why I've pegged them as the ones to potentially build this, but again, this is all conjecture. Some features that it would need to include are 1, the ability to bring in a virtual guest full screen with the best visual quality and lowest latency. 2, the ability to send them a return feed so that they can see what's actually going out live and hear other speakers on the live stream. 3, there's gotta be a way for them to share a screen for times that they want to share PowerPoint slides. And 4, the ability to talk back, so you can use a separate microphone to talk to your virtual guest while the stream is live without interrupting the live stream experience for the viewers. And I think this is a given, but from the virtual guest experience, it needs to be insanely user-friendly. The click of the link, open a browser window or application that doesn't require any installation and just works from any device, be it a desktop PC, iPhone, or Android device. That's where I think it's going to be tough, but not impossible. I know this is one tall order because I've seen people try to tackle this, and they still run into issues with needing the virtual guest to use Chrome or download an app to their phone. We're getting close, but if I'm asking a CEO of a Fortune 500 company to join a virtual call, I need to provide them one link, and I need it to work every time. Now that we've identified the problem, the proposed solution, and some of the required features, I want to talk more in depth on how I see this device functioning from a hardware standpoint. Remember, I dubbed this the Blackmagic ATEM Virtual Color ISO and ATEM Virtual Color Extreme ISO. Also, just to go on the record, these are my made-up names for this device, and in no way does this exist, but I'd like it to. This is just my dream vision. So imagine an ATEM Extreme sized unit that is controlled via the software control or a similar application. It can generate a link that is tied into that particular unit. The unit is connected to the internet either from Wi-Fi or Ethernet, realistically Ethernet, but a Wi-Fi option would be nice just for emergencies. And there's 2 models. The first model can output 4 video feeds of virtual guests, whether that be HDMI or SDI, preferably SDI. But it also has 4 audio outputs, which are individual isolated audio feeds of each virtual guest. This way, you can take it into your own mixer on site and mix both for the room and for the live stream. What would be even cooler though is if there's a way to tie this into your main ATEM switcher to mute and unmute guests as they are brought in live on screen, like audio follows video on the ATEM, but controlling it on the ATEM Virtual Caller unit. Then it would also have one multi-view output, so you can monitor all of your virtual guests on one screen, an input so you can send the program return feed into it, thus allowing all the virtual guests to see what's live, and one audio input that can be used for talkback. This would allow you to override the program audio feed and talk back to any one of your virtual guests to tell them things like, "You're up next," or "Tilt your camera down." Now, the one thing that I haven't quite figured out yet is the ability to send mix-minus audio, meaning the virtual guests hear everything going on and going into the live stream minus their own voice. Perhaps there's a way that you could link this unit to an ATEM so that it can automatically process the mix-minus for you. Now, that would be magical. The second model would be the same, but could handle up to 8 video feeds. So similar to the first model, you'd have 8 video outputs and 8 individual audio outputs, mostly so that you can take it into an audio mixer on site if you wanted to. Perhaps there's just one mix down feed if you don't care. Then similar to the smaller model, it could have a multi-view and talkback feature. There's 2 USB connections, one for attaching it to a computer for control and the other for recording ISOs, but maybe it could also have a backup cellular tethering function in the event that wired internet is non-existent. Now on the panel, I see a few ideas for the buttons, but essentially every virtual caller would have their own set of buttons, similar to how the ATEM Minis have camera control buttons. This is my super elementary mock-up here. There could be options to mute and unmute the virtual caller, increase or decrease the volume of their incoming audio feed, which in turn would go out over the audio outputs on the back. Options for black screen to hide the caller's video feed temporarily, an option to freeze frame the caller in the event of a signal dropout. Side note, press once to lock in the freeze frame, which can be previewed in software control, and the frame will automatically engage if a user drops out. Open up TalkBack audio to that specific caller, and perhaps even a special section for screen shares so that you could include one person sharing their screen at a time on the smaller unit, or two people sharing screens on the extreme model. Lastly, a section to control the multi-view output, so you can preview one person or every person's shot, and a record section where you can tell it to independently record certain ISOs or select an all ISO option to record ISOs of all virtual callers. Okay, pause. Is this an insane idea? I mean, seriously, let me know down in the comments if you've stuck with me this far. Is this something that would fulfill a need in your live streaming setups? I know that for me personally, it would save me the trouble of needing to bring laptops or a DeckLink box. It would save on needing to bring an audio and video capture device to return a feed to the virtual guests, and it would mean being able to use a protocol that no longer relies on Zoom, so the quality is full high definition, the latency is as low as can be, and the process for getting a virtual guest into the green room, so to speak, is as simple as possible. Not to mention the importance of being able to choose which virtual guest ISOs are recorded, which is something I think Blackmagic is seriously lacking on their ISO switchers. I only had time to create a mockup for a 4-person switcher and with HDMI connections, but I think you get the picture as far as what the SDI model could look like and what an 8-person unit would look like. Now, I'm no software designer or hardware designer for that matter, so I'm sure that there's a few nifty features that could be built into a unit like this that make things even easier. For example, if you were mixing all of your audio using the ATEM built-in mixer, but realistically, if you're going to output the audio in a hybrid environment, like in the room and virtually, then it makes sense to have an audio tech to mix for the room and another one to mix for the live stream. So physical outputs seems to make the most sense. But what am I missing here? Let's play this out hypothetically in the comments below, only because I'm curious what you're doing in your virtual and hybrid setups, and I'm wondering what a hardware solution could look like.